Hopefully, everybody who's on this call is here for this. Expected versus strong in personal development and well-being. What have recent inspections told us? Um, a little bit about me, a very little bit about me. My name's Simon White. I was a primary teacher, head teacher, school improvement partner for Wiltshire Council, a SACRE chair for Wiltshire, and PSHE and RE lead in pretty much every school I was ever in. And I'm currently chair of governors in a small C of E first school, and we had Ofsted in the second week that they could happen back last term. So I have been through the process as well, albeit as a chair of governors, which is much less stressful than when I used to go through it as a head teacher, because I was a head teacher in the southwest of England for 23 years before starting to do some consultancy work and working with Jigsaw. So that's a little bit about me. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to look at what we currently know and, most importantly, how we know it. Going to look a little bit about what stops schools from achieving even the expected, because there's a few nuggets of important information in there. We're going to look at what the expected and strong elements are, and then look at what the key differences are between those two. We're going to look at how personal development and well-being is inspected. And then we're going to hear from Ian, what does strong provision and impact look like in reality from his very recent experiences in his wonderful school in Ilford. And then I'm going to, well, woven through it, I'm going to introduce you to an idea about strengthening evidence gathering, mapping, tracking and voice. We said that you would come away from this with some practical ideas, and that is what we intend to do. Just by the way, as we go through, do drop any questions you've got into the chat, and Bex is going to monitor that for us, and we will answer as many questions as we can today. If not, we can answer them after the webinar. So just a couple of NB points. This analysis looks only at personal development and well-being at that standard. That is all we're focusing on. But it is our contention within Jigsaw that the school's PSHE provision impacts and is impacted by most, if not all, of the other inspection standards. Okay, so this interaction with other Ofsted areas will be explored in future webinars, but today we are just looking at moving personal development and well-being from expected to strong. So a little bit about the data. One of the things I do for Ofsted, I do for Jigsaw, is I look at Ofsted reports and match them to our database. So some of you who have had inspections, who are Jigsaw subscribers, may well have had an email from me following your inspection. So there have so far been just over 1,500 new style primary and secondary inspection reports published. They're published up to about 12th of May inspections. There have been a whole host this week of first and infant school reports that have been published that were done during SATS week. So I think gives a bit of a clue. If you're a first or infant school, you're probably more likely to be inspected during SATS week. But of those, 350 have been, or more than actually, 350 have been Jigsaw subscribing schools, and a whopping 97% of those Jigsaw schools achieved expected or better for their personal development and well-being, and 43% have achieved a strong standard or better. And actually, I've noticed a mistake there, because we found another one today. So it's not 3 Jigsaw schools that have been exceptional, it's now 4. And you will all be aware as teachers and leaders that exceptional really is, as it says these days, exceptional. There are very few handed out. So just quickly, because I said it gives us an important insight into what Ofsted's looking for. What about the 3% of schools who were not at least expected? What did they do wrong, or what didn't they do? And we can look at this in several areas on the next 2 slides. The personal development programme itself, the top reason that schools did not get expected was because the personal development programme was inconsistently applied. You can have the best programme in the world, whether it be Jigsaw or anybody else, and if it's not consistently applied across your school, you are not going to meet at least the expected standard. Looking at wider experiences, cultural capital and character, those schools often had narrow, unplanned activities, and really vitally, as we'll talk about later, they were not accessed by all pupils. Careers education, we're talking both primary and secondary here, again, was inconsistent or underdeveloped in some of those schools. And the PSHE and RSHE delivery, there's a repeating theme in those small percentage of reports. Even when the curriculum is well designed, delivery is patchy due to behaviour issues in the school maybe, or vitally lack of staff expertise. So you might have a programme for personal development, a programme for PSHE, a programme for relationship, sex and health education, but unless staff are well trained and got good expertise in it, things can go wrong. Inconsistent or superficial coverage of fundamental British values and diversity. Another vital one, disadvantaged and SEN, not all pupils benefiting equally from the provision. A theme again in those who were not expected was that leadership maybe new in post, they're just starting the improvements, not yet evaluating the impact perhaps. Fascinatingly, I think, and it's what we're about as a school, isn't it? Pastoral care. It's very, very, very rare to see a school criticised for pastoral care. It's often praised, even in needs attention schools. Okay, so the Ofsted definition of needs attention is where an evaluation area, in this case, personal development and wellbeing, is graded needs attention when the expected standard has not been met because some aspects of provision are inconsistent, limited in scope or impact, and are not fully meeting legal requirements. Okay, so it's that inconsistency and some of the standard not being met. Again, it won't be news to you that the standards within the current framework are all or nothing standards. You have got to get all of them in order to achieve that standard. So on to more of what we're really focusing on. What's the expected standard? What does that look like? How is that judged? So an evaluation area can be graded expected standard when all the standards are met. This includes the legal requirements and expectations set out in statutory guidance, as well as the professional standards required of the particular type of provision where these apply. It's a big ask, okay? Expected standard is good. You mixing words from different frameworks there, but expected standard is hard to get. It is demanding, and I do think we've got to be careful not to think that it's only expected standard. Having said that, we all want to do the very, very best for our students, don't we? So what we're looking at here is moving really good practice forward to be even better for our pupils, just so that it improves their life chances, improves their well-being. So strong standard will be given when an evaluation area has all the expected standards and all the strong standards. So it's, they build on each other. So what are the Ofsted expected standards? Over the next few slides, I'm going to take you through exactly what the expected standards are, and I've put some bold writing on here to try and pull out the themes. Then we're going to move on to see, so what's the difference to get strong? Okay, I hope that makes sense. So for expected standards, you have to have a coherent and appropriate programme of personal development which extends across the taught curriculum and wider opportunities and experiences. Okay, so a little bit of narrative behind that. It's not just your PSHE curriculum. It's extending across the taught curriculum. It makes a positive difference to pupils. That has to be judged. How do you know it's a positive difference? And it enables them to develop spiritually, morally, socially, and culturally. So that's your SMSC that's woven all the way through it. The personal development programme itself includes a suitable and well-taught relationships and health education or relationship, sex and health education programme, which develops people's knowledge. That's got to be there. You as leaders have got to understand it. The staff have got to know how to teach it. Pupils need to develop their understanding of and respect for protected characteristics. fundamental British values and cultural diversity in modern Britain. And when we look at those things, protected characteristics, yes, at the appropriate level for the school. Okay, so there will be some protected characteristics that are covered in your personal development in your RSE program, and there'll be others that will be left for secondary schools. And that's absolutely fine. But what you do, your pupils need to understand. Okay, fundamental British values, that's for everybody. Cultural diversity, do they understand that modern day Britain is a culturally diverse place? Pupils also have to have a range of suitable opportunities that broaden their experiences and enable them to develop their talents and interests in areas such as arts, music, and sport. And we will all be aware of the enrichment guidelines that are coming in. Again, Jigsaw will be on top of those and read them through properly, and we will be doing webinars to give you more information on that. But, you know, that's that whole area of entitlement. Are children entitled, and are all children entitled to those artistic, music and sporting activities? And then careers education. Again, both a primary and secondary thing, very different focus at primary rather than secondary, but does the school's careers education prepare pupils for future education, employment and training? And in the secondary context, the school is making steady progress towards the Gatsby benchmarks. Effective pastoral support, meeting people's needs, confident in accessing it when they need it. So this is way beyond the taught curriculum, isn't it? It is meeting children's needs. It's well-being stuff they're looking at here. Remember, we're still talking expected standard here, okay? And the personal development program is an entitlement for every pupil. And this is a vital difference, I have to say, and a vital thing that you need to be understanding. It's an entitlement for every pupil. Leaders track participation. They take steps to ensure that pupils, including disadvantaged pupils, those with SEND, those who are known to children's social care, or a coverall statement here, those who may face other barriers to their learning or well-being. For example, young carers can participate appropriately and reasonable adjustments or adaptations are made for them. Okay, so at expected standard, I think there's a bit of a nuance here. So you need to ensure that the program you provide, those children can participate appropriately. Okay, the ability for them to be able to is arguably enough at expected. When we get to strong, you need to show that they are participating appropriately and you are supporting them too. That's my interpretation of the difference there, but I think it is an important one. So we then move on to the strong standard. Okay, and I've tried to do a bit of highlighting here. Sorry to assault your eyes with this, but the differences I've tried to pull out. So we've now moved on. This is all Ofsted's words. It's not mine. From the expected standard to the strong standard. Within strong standard, pupils develop secure and detailed knowledge. Okay. And where relevant, sex education program within those things. So pupils develop a secure and detailed knowledge across your programs that you give them. Pupils are confident, resilient, and independent. They are reflective. They behave with integrity and cooperate consistently well with others. They are very well prepared for life beyond school. Do you see the level of the language here? So it's very well prepared. They are resilient. They're independent. Okay, they're secure and detailed knowledge. Leaders and staff have a deep understanding of all their pupils. So let's read that again because that's easy to read quickly, isn't it? Leaders and staff have a deep understanding of all their pupils, deep and all, and are systematic in anticipating and identifying pupils that need extra support. And what is provided is highly effective. Can you see what a high standard this strong standard is? Secondary age pupils have a wide range of options for education support and training. Schools engage well with employers. Okay, so all that really strong language going on there, isn't there? The program of personal development is extensive, carefully tailored to the school's context, tailored to pupils' aspirations. Okay. And those children, that list of children that we know so well are vulnerable pupils, participate and benefit what? Fully. Okay. Evidence of the impact of personal development is clear on the outcomes of experiences of pupils, including the groups listed above. Again, really strong there. So, if we're expected to evidence all of those things, we need to be pretty clever about it, don't we? There is a lot to evidence there. And we don't want to be collecting evidence for evidence sake. In fact, Ofsted themselves tell us not to do that. So what I've tried to do for you here is to look at the handbook for inspectors, where they are told about gathering evidence, okay, in pages 47 to 49 of the handbook. And they look for evidence under specific headlines, the first being strategic leadership. Now, the words again on these slides are Ofsted's words, but I've taken some of the less important ones out just to show it clearly what they're doing. So they looking in strategic leadership, they are looking for a personal development program which is broad, coherently planned, and suitable for the school's context, and that they reinforce one another. Okay. So I don't really see how else you're going to do that other than showing them maps of your curriculum, showing them your curriculum map. Okay. But this is about what you plan. What are your intentions back in the old Ofsted language? Your personal development, you map that. Staff knowledge and skills. Staff have knowledge and skills they need. Content is planned, taught, and assessed in line with the best available evidence. And again, I would argue that's your mapping. That's your documentation as PSHE lead to say, this is what our program is. This is how it does those things. So the personal development program itself, they need to see that it meets statutory requirements. Again, mapping. Preparing pupils for life beyond school. Well, they're not going to know if pupils feel prepared for life beyond school without listening to them. And pupil voice comes up massively within what we're talking about today. So they will be talking to pupils, and in everybody's experience, the voice of the pupil in this new framework is much greater. They are looking for pupils who are reflective about their own beliefs and perspectives on life, developing knowledge of and respect for different people's faiths, feelings, and values. 100% pupil voice, that's going to come through. They're looking to see that pupils enjoy and are fascinated by the learning about themselves, others, their imagination, creativity in learning, the willingness to reflect. I'd say again, pupil voice. And pupil voice, I include in that, and the evidence in their books, in their portfolios, or whatever it might be, which prompts them to talk about those things. We don't expect children to remember everything they've been taught without some prompts. So if you're clever in your pupil voice, children will be supported by floor books, whatever you use, so that they are able to talk about what they have done in the past. Again, still on the personal development program, Ofsted are looking that talents and interests are nurtured, developed, and extended to a range of opportunities. To me, that's a mix of all the things I'm talking to you about. That will be mapping. So what do you provide? You know, which classes go on visits? Where do they go? Why do they go? Are there visits to places of worship? What's the theatrical and artistic kind of diet that you're giving them through the school? That's your mapping. If you want to be strong, you are going to need to be tracking that as well. It's all very well having a really carefully planned, intended track through the school for children to experience all these things, but are they? And those that are more vulnerable, how are you making sure that they are? And again, the voice is really important there. Pupils love talking about those experiences they've had with the inspectors. The willingness of pupils to participate and respond to those kind of things. Again, mapping and voice. Children developing their ability to recognize right and wrong, consequences, recognizing legal boundaries, respecting civil and criminal law, offering reasoned views about moral and ethical issues. Again, all of those things are going to be most strongly evidenced by the inspector sitting with a group of pupils and talking to them about it, I think, and seeing those things in action in the playground, in non-structured times, and in lessons. Pupils learn how to manage emotions and resolve conflict, the same thing. They'll see that and feel it in your school. Opportunities to prepare effectively for adulthood life in modern Britain, knowledge about achieving and thriving in later life, understanding of protected characteristics and fundamental British values, being responsible, respectful, active citizens, and contributing positively to society. So again, those things will be seen through your mapping, your pupil voice, and your tracking. Pupils taught to recognise online and offline risks. Again, very much mapping and pupil voice. Pupils know how to keep themselves safe, healthy, mental health, active lifestyle. That, I argue, will be exclusively explored by the inspectors talking to your pupils. They will ask them questions about those things. Okay. Age appropriate understanding of healthy relationships. Again, pupil voice. Knowing how to discuss and debate, obviously, pupil voice. You see how strongly this voice aspect is coming through in evidencing your strong personal development and well-being. Careers education, the things that need to be done, both secondary and primary. The top two are about secondary age pupils being supported and the Gatsby benchmarks. Again, they're mapping really and tracking. Understanding of relevant trends, well, that will be talking to the pupils. And pupils with SEND develop independence, contribute to their community, make positive friendships, are supported to be as healthy as possible. Tracking, probably voice as well. I could almost put voice on all of these though, to be honest. Then vitally, pastoral support. How on earth are Ofsted going to be looking at your pastoral support? Well, they're going to be looking to see that leaders and staff know their pupils. They're vigilant in identifying individuals or groups that need additional pastoral support. So absolutely tracking. How do you identify those pupils? How do you track that what you've put in place is making an impact for them? The second bullet point, well matched to pupils' needs, targeted. Again, you're not going to be able to demonstrate that without some tracking evidence. Effective relationships with parents, local authorities, and other external agencies are drawn on to strengthen pastoral support. That one, perhaps we could put case study there, maybe. But case studies are part of tracking, aren't they? They're taking that a step forward. But are you able, whoever is talking to the inspector, are they able to talk with confidence about the impact that those things you put in place has had on the whole family, and who have you partnered with in order to do it? Pupils understand what support is available to access pastoral care when they need it. Leaders listen to and take account of pupils' views about their needs. Again, that will be tracking. It will also be pupil voice. I'd say I could put that everywhere. So they'll maybe talk to members of the school council. How have you influenced any decisions in this school? What did you pupils say about what needed to happen and what's happened about it? And your record keeping and day-to-day data analysis, ensuring that pastoral support is effective. And these bullet points, I haven't put them there. They are all Ofsted's words from the guidance. Okay, so they are all advice to inspectors about gathering evidence. And you will all be fully aware that the new framework has a massive theme of inclusivity. Can't even say it. So they look at inclusive personal development and well-being. Do pupils feel welcome, valued, and respected, and that they belong to the school? I don't see how else you're going to do that other than voice. Do all pupils, especially those groups, benefit from high quality personal development opportunities? Again, tracking and pupil voice. Do all pupils have equal access to participate in interesting and relevant extracurricular activities? Tracking and voice. And again, I said earlier on, the difference there that I'm seeing in Ofsted reports is you can have a fabulous extracurricular activity program, but can you say that all pupils are accessing it? All pupils benefit from high quality careers education. Pupils understand and appreciate and respect differences in the world and its people. They celebrate what we have in common across cultural, religious, ethnic, and socioeconomic communities. Pupils respect protected characteristics. They don't tolerate bullying, discrimination, harassment, and victimization. Again, I think they're going to get that from talking to the pupils and developing a range of social skills. And then reasonable adjustments or adaptations to the personal development curriculum for pupils are well targeted and effective. So again, they're all coming back to this tracking. So what are you doing differently for the pupils that need it? How do you know it's effective? And the whole thing about alternative provision as well, knowing what is happening in any alternative provision that you use. So that is plenty from me for a while. And that's the theory. So Ian, our head teacher from Downsall Primary in Ilford, has seen all this in practice. And Ian's going to talk to you a little bit about his school. We had hoped that we were going to be able to share Ofsted outcome with you. It hasn't been published yet, unfortunately. So we all know how secret things have to be kept, but I'll just say Ian's a very good example of what we're talking about. So, Ian, if I can hand over to you to chat to us a little bit about your experiences.
Sure, thank you. Well, I'll keep it brief because really I'm echoing a lot of what you've said, Simon. I just think that couple of maybe points about the practical side. So everything that Simon has said is exactly true about mapping, tracking, and voice. Um, but we felt, and I'm sure you are, if you most of you in here may be coming up to the Ofsted window, we wanted to be prepared, and our PSHE lead really wanted to kind of curate the inspection so we knew what, we'd looked through the things and prepared. And I would say that it's very tough over the 2 days. I've been a head teacher now for 25 years, and this is my fifth inspection. And I would say this framework is the hardest one to really try and get through your points. You have to push back and make sure that the inspectors are letting you put the evidence that you want to put across. Um, and we particularly wanted personal development to be one that came out well, which we're pleased has, because it was like so many of you, it's at the center of everything we do. We get up in the morning to make sure that our children make good personal development. That's why we're a jigsaw school. We're so involved because it's at the center of our being. 6 areas that we had worked out that we really wanted to make sure, because looking at the framework, we insisted the inspectors looked at whilst they were at the school. And I repeat that they will come with their own agenda and they'll fly through things. There were times we said to them, no, you need to see this because we want to see that this is in the evidence base. They're also, I think they work on the basis now that the first day, they're sort of quite happy. Oh, good, we're at expected. They're not as perhaps concerned as some of you will be that you want to push to strong. And so you need to fight to make sure that they do hear that. So the 6 areas, very briefly, we looked at, and Simon's mentioned them, but we mentioned straight away that we have progression and that they're throughout our curriculum for PSHE and personal development. It's based on Jigsaw. They were big fans of Jigsaw. Jigsaw is very well respected as a scheme. They said, yeah, we know Jigsaw, it's a good scheme, we're happy with that. What they wanted to see was that it was contextualized. So we gave them examples. We knew that's what they were going to ask us. So, for example, we had had some issues with some girls in year 5 with body image and the language they were using and concerns, and a little bit about cyberbullying. So we used our floor books and we insisted on our PD learning walk that they looked at how we had extended and adapted that unit personalized it so that, yes, Jigsaw was our learning platform, but we were contextualizing, extending, enriching where the need was for our school. And that's what you want to your fingertips. They'll be very happy when you say Jigsaw. They'll see that's a recognized good program, but in their mind is, oh, are you just rolling it out and turning it on, or are you making it what your children need? And so we had that ready. And building on that, I said to the inspector, because I was the one sort of with the PSHE lead that wanted to be on that walk because personal development was important to us. And I said, we want a specific personal development sort of learning walk. And I already decided what I want you to see. And they were a bit like, oh, but we don't need it. We were like, no, we want you to see this. So the second thing was we wanted to show them how Jigsaw gave pupils tools that extend beyond the classroom. So what the point we made to the inspectors were the reason we chose Jigsaw for us particularly were two particular elements. We really like the mindfulness section, the calm me time. It's central to what we feel is a tool for our children. We serve like a lot of London schools and a lot of schools, maybe people are on this call, we've got 35% free school meals. We have a number of vulnerable children. So our children need tools to help them through challenging experiences. We serve two hostels where children are in temporary accommodation. They've just turned up in the country. So for us, mindfulness is really, really important. And we really like the connectors games, the social elements that it also gives children, those depth to each part of the puzzle. So we insisted that they saw two short sessions. We insisted that they looked at a mindfulness calm me time in nursery in year 1. And then we insisted that they saw examples of Connect Us. And we then took them to the upper end of the school, not for whole long lessons, but for, sort of short sessions where the children were reflecting in the lesson on how they were using the calm me time. How do you use it out of school? When is it appropriate for you? Similarly with the connectors, what are your favorite games? How do they help you with your friends? Why do you look forward to these games? What do you choose? So that we were taking them deeper to show that we knew this scheme we owned Jigsaw. It wasn't a scheme that we just bought into, that we just put up on the screen. We love it, we use it because it's valuable, and we've made it ours, and we understand the depth and the richness it offers our children. The third thing was the RHSC and British values. Simon's mentioned all of these, but they were very important. That was very important to them. For us, we had a story to tell because we've had two consultations now with our parents. The first one a number of years ago, and the more recent consultation, which was ongoing during the inspection. And it was particularly relevant because I'm sure, like a lot of schools, we had a number of parents who didn't really want us to teach a number of the things that we believed were essential for our children, some feeling that they didn't want us to discuss anything to do with same-sex relationships. They didn't want us to discuss body parts in year 2. And we'd had real in-depth dialogue with our governors leading on that, because they are, sort of parents and part of the community. And we were able to evidence how we'd listened to what parents said, transformed some of their thinking, shared our resources, and turn around a lot of that, but still some parents were unhappy, but that we had made the decision jointly after consultation that we were going forward made some changes as if we'd compromised. So they were wanted to hear about that and felt that we'd handled that successfully. British values is something that we record throughout the curriculum, and we do a kind of a little drawing of around the children's hands in each of the books when they do British values because of the 5 sort of areas. And we were able to show the inspectors a range of books and ask the children to talk about those books where, in history, they talked about how British values and the law and how it had developed, and in our science that, that we looked at, sort of tolerance of different views, that science, we take those on. So we were showing British values throughout the curriculum. And the fourth thing that we looked at was, as Simon's mentioned as well, pastoral care was very important to them. We have a couple of trained ELSAs. I'm sure some other schools will have ELSAs, trained sort of TAs who offer our children sort of some pastoral time. We track that, just like Simon was saying, so we could look at why was the child referred to pastoral care, what interventions did we put in place, what were the outcomes, where were we now, were families involved, were there any questionnaires to look at the impact. We were able to share that with our inspectors. The last two, enrichment, again, Simon's mentioned, really had to have the register. This was to get strong, you really needed to show what were we doing to make sure, because I know we said a few years ago, when we were looking at this, well, we've got a number of children free school meals that just don't come to clubs. They either because we charge or because their parents they're too busy and they just collect them. So we put a lot in place to make sure that we were using our pupil premium to support that, to make sure that there were incentives for parents who couldn't collect those children. So they delved into that. And are there SEND children? Because that's another thing, with more complex children with SEND, makes running an after-school club that some LSA may be doing very challenging. So, well, what did you do? What reasonable adjustments? So we really had to have a think about that and show how we had sort of moved the bar on that. And finally, the one that I think helped us tremendously was parent voice. We really we spoke to our parents before, we got some things and said, look, you've been involved with some of our pastoral care, your child's been coming, can we call you if we get an inspection? Can you come into the school? We set up laptops so parents could because a lot of our parents have got English as an additional language, 98%. That's high even by London standards. So they came in, we set up the laptops, we helped them. And also on the first day of the inspection, the inspectors go out to the playground and they stand outside. And we sort of phoned parents the night before we knew it and said, look, can you come and speak to the inspectors? Tell them that your child really has benefited from the enrichment program here. They've been on a music festival that they've taken part on, not just basic clubs, but we've set up for them a 2-day sports festival. Your child's taken part in that, the trips your child's taken part in. So very much sort of, I think a lot of pre-thought going in helped us, and all the work that Simon's talked about, tracking, mapping, and being able to share that, fighting your corner, is what they're looking for to really go that extra mile. I hope that's helpful.
Ian, I'm sure it's really helpful. Thank you so much. It's so important to ground this into reality because there's a lot of theory in what I've been talking about. But thank you so much, Ian. That's great. And if that's whetted your appetite, keep your ear to the ground because we've got an open afternoon in Ian's school in November. And so it's a free to attend Jigsaw open afternoon. So keep your eye on the Jigsaw website and get signed up for that. If you're close enough to get to Ilford for an afternoon in November, you will not be disappointed. I can assure you. Thank you, Ian. That is absolutely fantastic. Great. Right. So moving on from that, and we're nearly there, you'll be pleased to hear, because I'm sure you're all dripping. But looking at those sources of evidence, what do we mean by map? Well, to me, mapping is any written or online evidence of your provision. Okay. And I would say in there, don't forget that many of you will have put hours of work into the impact What was sorry if my mind's gone blank. The old way of looking at impact, implementation, and impact. I've got those words wrong, but you know what I mean. You'll have put lots of work into those documents. They are not dead. They will very clearly show the inspector your thinking behind why you do what you do. So don't discount that work that you put in for the old inspection framework, I would say. But any of those things, those of you who are Jigsaw schools, which is almost all of you on the call, obviously go to the portal, go to the community area. We have got so many documents there that map for you the kind of things that the inspectors are going to ask about. So you know that mapping is there. Just that caveat on it, you can map to your heart's content, but unless you, as senior leaders and PSHE leads, are sure that PSHE is being delivered well in every classroom, you're on a bit of a hiding to nothing there. So your first point of call will be knowing that your provision is good. Okay, so it's all very well having a map of intentions, but you need to know that what the diet that your children are having week in, week out in PSHE and all of the wider things is a good one. So anything to do with tracking are your systems. How do you track groups or pupil outcomes? Electronic, paper-based, it doesn't matter. You will have tracking systems in your school. Make the most of them. If you've got them, make sure they do what you want them to do. Don't be slaves to them. You need them to show, you know, why you have selected particular pupils, what their needs are, what you've given them, and what the impact is at the end. That impact is really important. And the voice, all the ways you or the inspector can hear the lived experiences of your pupils. And I would absolutely echo, and I should have really put this in here, what Ian said, and their parents and their families. You know, the parent voice is massively important in that. So, a significant amount of the evidence for strong personal development and well-being will come from mapping evidence. Okay, and your use of Jigsaw PSHE, as we've already said, those of you at Jigsaw schools, makes this one of the easiest. The Jigsaw Spiral curriculum does fully meet all statutory requirements. Mapping documents are in the community area. Many inspectors, as Ian said, are aware of Jigsaw, but just make sure you're confident you can evidence that Jigsaw is being consistently well delivered across your school. And I make no apologies for saying that twice, because that is fundamentally, if you don't do that, you won't even get expected. Now, importantly, mapping your school specific approaches. Jigsaw have done a lot of the hard work for you. You know you've got a really good curriculum there, but personal development and well-being is wider than your Jigsaw PSHE curriculum. So don't forget your school specific mapping. Lots of things. How do you adapt Jigsaw at curriculum and the wider experience to your school's context? Just know that you've got the story to tell there of what you do and why you do it. This understanding is a key element of strong practice. Okay. If you've not revisited it recently, then as I say, those old intent, implementation, and impact, there we are. I should have remembered that. Sorry, it's hot. Documents your school has can provide a really, really good starting point. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. People have put hours of thought into that for your school. Now, I would argue in tracking, there is no way that you will achieve strong without clear people tracking systems. I don't see how you're going to do it. Purposeful and effective tracking is a key element of strong inspection reports, and the mechanics is not specified. Tracking relates to any way in which you match pupils and groups to needs and provision, and strong tracking ensures that impact is clearly measured and practice amended in light of this measurement. Let's say that again. Strong tracking ensures that impact is clearly measured and practice amended in light of that measurement. That's the impact. So be prepared to talk about what you do for families with any form of disadvantage. How do you secure participation in wider activities and experiences? As Ian was saying, do you have some success stories to share? You know, the Ofsted inspectors really like to humanize this. You know, what has actually happened? Can I speak to a parent that, you know, this has happened for? It's really, really strong evidence there. And as I've already mentioned, be aware of the upcoming enrichment framework. It's non-statutory guidance, but it does give a clear insight into DFE expectations going forward. Now, pupil voice, the voice of pupils is a much bigger part of inspection than we've ever had in previous inspections. And the key question is, how are you supporting pupils to be confident and articulate in pupil voice sessions? It's not going to happen by accident. You are not going to get good pupil voice with an inspector if it's the first time your school council or whoever is selected goes in front of them. Practice. Don't let the inspector sessions be there first. And don't look at that as practicing for the inspector. Find out what pupils are saying. No, don't be surprised by a pupil voice session with an inspector. Know the things that pupils are likely to be saying because they've talked to you about it. Okay. There's nothing wrong with aid memoirs. And again, I've alluded to this. Support the pupils by giving them access to their journals, workbook, floor books, whatever you do, whatever helps them remember and make links. The inspectors will be looking to see that they have learnt. So they've had a change in their thinking that's long term and impacts them now. And the best way to trigger that is they look back through their work. Oh, yeah, I remember doing that when it was September. Yeah, and this is what I learned. They're not necessarily going to remember that in a July inspection without something in front of them to remind them. Provide the team with outcomes of previous pupil voice activities. There's nothing wrong with that. What were the headlines? They're not going to read everything, but this is a folder, and we found out back in September that pupils were feeling this, and we did this, and we've now checked back on it, and this is what pupils now feel. And really importantly here for church schools, don't forget that much of your SIAMS evidence will be highly, highly relevant too. So, that work that you put in for SIAMS will be as much interest in these areas to the inspectors as much of the other evidence. So, bit of a conclusion on these things before I just give you a couple of minutes to try it out in practice. Stressful as any inspection can be, there is clarity about what is being inspected in the framework. They are not there to trap you and to trip you up. Read through the framework, and it is clearly there what is expected. The difference between expected and strong in personal development and well-being is essentially about evidencing the strength of the impact of your provision on people's knowledge, skills, understanding, and attitudes. But it is also about that impact being demonstrably for all pupils. Okay. So I would say if you are confident that you have the expected impact for most pupils in your personal development and well-being work, then Ofsted are likely to judge this as expected standard. If you've got strong impact for all pupils, Ofsted, I think, will have no choice but to judge it as strong or even exceptional. Okay. So just in the last 5 minutes of being together, I have scraped from the internet today. This is absolutely current. A school that has been judged as strong, and the next two slides give you all of the words that Ofsted have said about them being strong. And from what I've said, I'm not going to read these through to you. You can read them, they're on the screen. Can you see why this school was judged strong? Give you just a couple of minutes to read through this one. So can you see the words there that show why this is strong? Coherent, ambitious. Yeah, oversight ensures that the staff understand their roles. Okay, and the next page, the rest of it, same there.
So Simon, we've just had so Joe's just mentioned on regards to the last slide that it's well monitored and subsequently adapted.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, that is a key difference. I know some of you are still reading, so sorry to get in your head, but that it really is a key difference. I would argue absolutely that if you have got, I work with Jigsaw Education, but if you've got Jigsaw Education as your core scheme, as long as you are ensuring it is consistently delivered, you are going to be at expected. And expected is good. Okay. Give yourself a pat on the back. Tick. Great. If you want to take it further than that, it's about how are you adapting that to your school's context, how are you mapping that difference, and how are you evaluating that impact. I think that's massively important. I also saw in the chat that somebody was asking about which schools. I'm afraid I can't remember, but I will get the information to the team
Yeah,
on
I've
which schools.
Yeah, absolutely, Simon. I have replied back just to say if you get in touch with school support, and we'll be able to provide those details that we can. So they'll be able to help you, and I've already let them know. So,
Yeah.
Nicola
And
Cox. Oh, sorry, go on,
yeah,
Simon.
no, that's fine. I just these are some quite. This is a variety of schools, but so Nicola, we had an inspection in March. There was a big focus on questioning me as PSHE leader about protected characteristics and British values. Also, after school clubs for pupil premium children. So it was good to hear about that for me to share with my school. Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the protected characteristics thing, they are interested, very interested in that. But don't forget, it is at a primary level. Do not get stressed about exactly what does that mean. It is do they know about sexism? Do they know about racism and those kind of gender equality and all of those kind of things? Do not get too, tied up in the in some of those other areas of protected characteristics. If you're interested in more of that, there's lots of information and webinars on all sorts of things on the Jigsaw portal that will support you in that. So hopefully it's all been very useful for you. We've got time for a few more questions if you want in the chat, which we'll try and answer. As I say at the end of all of these things, the whole reason that we put our time, that I put my commitment into these, is to support you as schools, to support you as leaders, to support you as PSHE leads. And I hope you come away from these things feeling, I've got a map through. I know a little bit more about what I should be doing. You are not going to get all of this done tomorrow. You're not going to get it all done next week, next term. Okay, so don't put yourself under that pressure. If you're feeling worse about what you're doing coming away from this webinar, then do get in touch with us, because you shouldn't. And there are ways that we can support you. Have a think through the key messages of what we are saying to you about gathering that evidence. But don't forget that expected is a difficult standard to get, and it is great. And I think we need to shout about that more. Schools should not be disappointed that they only got expected. It's great. We're ambitious for our schools, and we are looking for our journey towards strong, and that's what this is about. But we're not looking to say that every Jigsaw school should be a strong PSA, PDW school in the short or even medium term. There are things that get in the way of that. We absolutely know that.
So Simon, Joe's just asked about I understand for the about the new curriculum states varied. Oh, sorry, about protected characteristics. So it's very hot today. If you can read it in the chat.
I can see it there.
Get my tongue back in.
So new curriculum states varied families, including same-sex families, not optional for teaching. Yeah, correct. It is a fact. Children need to understand that there are same-sex families. You can't brush it under the carpet. We don't need to labour the point, and that's part of involving that's why we have the parent consultations and things, to involve and inform your parents about what you teach the children and why you teach it. Just acknowledging that something is the case is not teaching that it is a right or wrong thing, is it? So that would be my answer on that. But again, there are support materials on the portal for that. Yep, good.
And Joe's just added a reply as well.
Sorry. Yeah, I got
You
that.
see
Sorry.
it?
Yeah, that it came across wrong. That's not what I meant at all, as you can see from what I've just said. So apologies. So just in case people can't see the chat, you just said just teach sexism and racism. Don't worry about the other protected characteristics. It could be misinterpreted. Yes, it was misinterpreted, and apologies for that. So hopefully that's clearer. Okay, great. Good. So a few contacts there if you need to get hold of us. So there's the school support, which will get through to Bex and her team. And there's my personal Jigsaw email there, which I'm happy to respond to as well. The website, those of you who are subscribers, you know all about that and how to get in there. And anybody who, as a result of this, is interested in finding out more and finding what a subscription would cost for their school, again, Jigsaw education group, school support at will be able to point you in absolutely the right direction. So there we are. Hopefully useful. Seems to have been from a number of things in the chat. Thank you so much for your time on this hot afternoon.
Oh,
You know where we are.
Simon, just before we go,
Yeah,
I know there were a couple of people, thank you for your questions. There were a couple of people that asked about the slide. So I'll be speaking to Simon after the presentation. The recording of this will be sent out to you next week. If we are able to release the slides as well, they will be sent with the recording. So there's no
brilliant.
need to get in touch with school support, although you are about that, but you are very welcome to anyway. And a
Great.
few obviously thanking both of you and Ian as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a cool evening if you can.